So raise your hand if you've ever been told that cutting expenses is the quickest way to grow your business. And I know that sounds smart, right? If you spend less, then you'll profit more. But here's the thing, cutting your expenses without knowing your numbers could actually hurt your growth. So today I'm going to bust the myth that cutting expenses automatically grows your profit, and I'll show you what to do instead. Welcome back to another episode of the Peace and Profits podcast, where we talk about building a high-income business that supports your whole life, not just your bottom line. I'm Kendra, your fractional CFO, and today's conversation is one that every CEO needs to hear. So first, let's talk about the myth and why it's dangerous. So the myth is that you must cut expenses in order to grow. And one reason why that's dangerous is that it makes you reactive instead of proactive. So being reactive means that you are letting the mess happen just to later clean it up. Where being strategic means that you are thinking in advance about how you would like things to play out to avoid the mess altogether. Now, of course, that's not to say that things don't happen, that there's never going to be anything to clean up or improve, but reducing the potential for fires in turn reduces the fires that you have to put out later. So you want to make sure that you are being strategic and not just reactive, and cutting expenses to grow is more of a reactive move. So another thing is if you are cutting expenses that actually fuel growth. So an example of this is cutting ads that have strong ROI or return on investment, or cutting out a key team member, whether they are an employee or a contractor, that frees up your time. You don't want to cut expenses for like a temporary financial benefit if it's later going to cause stress on you or your team. Another thing is chopping small personal expenses that feel productive, but they barely move the needle. So a great example of this is that Starbucks that everyone wants you to cut out, or the Uber Eats that you get shamed for buying. But listen, pause. If you're spending hundreds and hundreds of dollars on Uber Eats for yourself or your very small team, I probably will call you out on that. But ultimately, going into overdrive to try to find the $5 here, the $5 there, it will barely move the needle in your business, and you have a better use of your time doing something else. So let's talk about what to do instead. Here is what smart CEOs do instead. First, know your numbers. You knew I was going to say it. So before you start cutting, understand what each expense actually contributes. So some expenses are just like the cost of doing business. If you are a product-based business, you're going to have inventory, you're going to have shipping costs, you're going to have tools like Shopify, maybe even PayPal. So some of those expenses are going to be a no-brainer to keep, but you really want to spend time looking at expenses around people, whether they're employees or contractors or service providers. You want to look at those expenses and make sure that you are aware of how much you're actually spending and what you're getting for that spend. Also look at software or SaaS tools. You definitely want to do an audit for all of those. You might be paying for tools that you're not even using. And some of these tools might just be $10, $20. Some might just be hundreds. Some are thousands. So you definitely want to take time to look through all of your SaaS tools and all of your software expenses. Another thing that smart CEOs do is they align their cuts with the bigger goals. So as an example, if you want more time back, don't cut delegation. Now, more to come in this episode about delegation, because it's not just any old delegation, it's effective delegation. For this topic, you want to be clear on what your short and long-term goals are and cut accordingly. Do not cut delegation if you're wanting your time back. You also want to focus on ROI, not just the cost. So ask yourself, is this expense paying for itself? If I am spending $500 a month on a lead generation tool or a service provider that brings in, $5,000 a month, that's a solid return on investment, ROI. If you're cutting your VA or your virtual assistant to save you money, it might feel like a win until you're drowning in admin work and you're losing sales because you're stuck in your inbox. So you want to think about the overall return on investment and not just the cost of the expense. Lastly, you want to think of time and money as your key resources. I always say time and money are your two most valuable resources, so move accordingly. So as I just explained, don't cut money if it means burning out your time. I've seen people cut a $300 a month bookkeeper just to have their executive assistant who earns $40 an hour take it over. Now, here is the thing. They will do it less efficiently. They are likely going to do it less accurately unless they have some kind of an accounting background, which you don't want to have your EA or somebody else doing your bookkeeping or your accounting if they do not have an accounting background. It will cost you more in the long run. So it's just not going to make financial sense either to have this $40 an hour EA doing your $300 a month bookkeeping work. Now, as a side note, if you're a bookkeeper still charging $300 a month, you need to run, not walk, but run over to my Instagram at @thefinancefem or shoot me an email at info@thefinancefem.com and absolutely sign up for my coaching so that I can help you get that all the way together. Time and money, most valuable resources. Plan accordingly. Don't cut one for the other. Now, the third thing, let's talk about the power of delegation. Delegation is the unlock for scaling. When you learn how to delegate effectively, things improve drastically in your business and in your life. Cutting expenses that free up your time actually slows down your growth. I'm reiterating this point because, like I said, there's time and there's money, and you want to properly leverage both. Smart CEOs invest in tools, in people, and in systems that let them lead, not micromanage. So when I say delegate effectively, that's what I mean. This truly could be a whole episode in and of itself. How to hire, how to onboard, how to properly delegate, because it's not enough to just delegate. You have to delegate it to the right person, to the right team, to the right tool, and you have to delegate it in the right way, onboard them properly. DM me if you want an episode on this. Just let me know. Or again, shoot me an email, info@thefinancefem.com. But delegation is going to be the key and the unlock for scaling. So I want to leave you with some action steps that you can take that will help you in this process. So the first thing is to review your top 10 expenses. So yes, this requires you to have updated and accurate financials and have access to a profit and loss statement so that you can review your expenses. If you don't have that, again, email me, info@thefinancefem.com. Me and my team can get you all the way together, or shoot us a DM over at The Finance Fem. But once you have your top 10 expenses, you want to review each one and ask, what is the ROI? Does this align with my goals for each one? So some things are going to be crystal clear. You're going to look at that high performing EA and you're going to say, oh, absolutely, the ROI is here. She aligns with my goals here. She aligns with my goals. You're going to look at that SaaS tool that helps increase your average order value, right, for those product-based businesses. But other expenses are going to be harder to analyze, and you're going to have to really take some time and do the work to analyze the ROI and if it aligns with your goals. Then the next thing I want you to do is to identify one or two expenses that drain your cash and your time. If it drains your cash and your time, cut those. Cut those first, cut them, because why keep them? And then conversely, I want you to protect what buys back your time and drives profit. Those are going to be your winners. So instead of cutting them, you could actually even consider fueling it more, pouring more money into them to see if that increases the productivity. So you don't want to cut them, but you definitely want to keep them. So no, you don't need to cut your way to growth. You need to align your spending with your vision. That's how you're going to scale peacefully and profitably. So if this episode resonated with you, please share it with a friend that's been stressing over their budget. And if you are ready for this strategic support to help you align your money with your goals, then DM me over on Instagram at The Finance Fem. Shoot me an email, info@thefinancefem.com. This is not about our coffee orders. This is about building a bigger and more peaceful life. That is all for today. I'll see you next week on the Peace and Profits podcast. Bye.